The Scame Villain's Self-Saving System. Chapter 93 The Scame Villain's Self-Saving System. Audio source, WurshaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 93 The Scame Villain's Self-Saving System. Extra. Airplane's Fortuitous Encounter. Part 4. Of course, the reason an urge was because it could usually be checked, and could not be carried out. Not even removing his boots, Mo Bei-jun laid down on his brand-new, not once slept-on bed. Shang Qinghua felt incomparably sick at heart. "My king, this is Kangqiong Mountain." A pillow full of strong destructive power flew over, striking Shang Qinghua and making him grimace in pain. Shang Qinghua picked up the pillow, saying tactfully, "My king, this is my bed." Mo Bei-jun stuck up a finger and waved it at him. "Noble and cool," he said one word. "Main." Understood. Because his whole person belonged to Mo Bei-jun, his things also belonged to Mo Bei-jun. Naturally, his bed also belonged to Mo Bei-jun. And as for the reverse, did it stand? At this time, the fat tiger theory should be applied. What's yours is mine, what's mine is still mine. Shang Qinghua resentfully rolled off the chair, silently going to pick up the broken pieces of the teacup at his feet. He began to hum a little tune of, "I lie on the ground while you sleep on a bed, I eat radish husks and you drink meat soup," while tidying up his new room. At least he had been kindly bestowed a single pillow for himself. Before, he didn't even have a pillow. Content with his situation, he hugged it and slept. Might as well retire one. Today, Shang Qinghua was also as hard-working as a happy little honeybee. Mo Bei-jun slept in the leisure house for 3 days, then disappeared without a word. With this, Shang Qinghua finally got the full experience of how unscientific the halo he had given Mo Bei-jun was. 3 days. In 3 days, there was no warning raised, no suspicion, no nothing. Not a single person had found out. A demon had strutted all the way up to live on Anding Peak and ordered about a future elite logistics disciple as his own beast of burden. Like a freed serf singing a song, Shang Qinghua felt quite the wave of thrill for a while, right up until he received the next mission from the old Anding Peak Lord. Even though Anding Peak's missions were only the miscellanea of day-to-day life, the difference was only in whether you fought in the rear or struggled on the front lines. But, the closer one was to dangerous organisms, it was inevitably stressful and frightening. For example, rushing up to deliver blood-replenishing talismans and pills when Baizan Peak was in the thick of battle with resentful spirits. This type of mission was cruel and frightful no matter how you looked at it. At least Mo Bei-jun was very good at protecting people. Shang Qinghua thought he had already tossed him to the back of his mind. He never expected that many times when he had fallen into dire straits, he would be fished up in passing by some strange creatures who appeared demonic any way you looked at them, saving his little life. This really counted as hang out with me, and I'll protect you, right? Shang Qinghua couldn't resist thinking that hugging thighs or whatever, it was quite useful, quite necessary. Or else there was no way he could have survived until today. And while it was at it, the concise and comprehensive system grandiosely passed a new command to Shang Qinghua: become the Anding Peak head disciple within 3 years. Other than running missions outside and having to give a good showing under Mo Bei-jun's care, if he wanted to become head disciple, he also had to pay more than a little attention within Kangqiong Mountain. As everyone knew, all the supporting cannon fodder in Proud Immortal Demon Way only had an IQ of 40. Therefore, the so-called palace intrigue just reached about this type of degree. So, the old Anding Peak Lord already had head disciple A. outstanding to the max, outstanding serving tea, taking water, washing clothes, folding blankets, all kinds of mastery, could be rated as a dab hand in the housekeeping service center. Someday, the old Peak Lord requested that I make 12 delicious flat cakes and send one to each peak. What Shang Qinghua needed to do was stealthily scatter a ton of salt or sugar on each flat cake, meticulously made to make them completely unpalatable each time, and repeat the above process 3 times. Okay, the old Peak Lord finally lost all hope in his former prime disciple. Think about it, if you can't even make a good flat cake, what else can you do? At this time, if Shang Qinghua displayed his expert culinary skills a few more times, he could successfully ascend. It's precisely that so-called not enough IQ Sukomi points come together. If you can't do the best, then do the worst. If the plot line is imbecilic enough to make the readers roast it like crazy, it's also a kind of success. These types of plot lines were too numerous to count in proud immortal demon way. The grand occasions when readers would flock together year-round to spew could be said to be one of the great spectacles of the Zhongdian Reviews section. And the one who spewed the hardest was precisely that peerless Cumber. Thinking of this, Shang Qinghua couldn't resist feeling a bit of longing for those young companions in this dear friend from the review sections. He really missed his gleeful and inexhaustible howls of airplane shooting towards the sky. It's exactly because you have this type of ideology that you're only a third-rate stallion writer. That heroic disposition. However, as the ending Peak head disciple, his worries would only increase, not decrease. For example, before, in his time as an outer disciple, he would never have the chance to descend the mountain on missions with Shen Qingchu and Lu Qingge. How many fucking lives of disastrous fate must he have lived to draw this special prize? Kanqiong Mountain emphasized maintain kinship between peers to the utmost. It was common for several head disciples to head out together on tasks at regular intervals. This time, the division of labor between the three was also very clear. Lu Qingge was the hired thug on the vanguard. Shen Qingchu was the center, in charge of feigning civility, sneak attacks, and snarky retorts, as well as waving his fan and being pretentious. Cross that all out, too. And Shang Qinghua? Of course, he was in charge of driving the cart, making in reservations, carrying luggage, as well as all the income and expenses of this trip. Logistics, right. It would be great if he really was let off so easy. It's said that at night, if you stick out your head and look into the mouth of that well, you'll see your reflection inside looking up, smiling faintly and beckoning. Out of nowhere, it will drag people inside to drown. Sometimes you'll even see your dead relatives. Cough cough. Shen Shisheng and Lu Shidi, can you let me finish first? Shang Qinghua set down the scroll. Shen Qingchu pulled out a book from his sleeve in one move. He could act pretentious on his own anywhere and any time. Sitting or standing, and right now he was leaning on that old banyan shade tree, displaying that he had the magnificent essence of the Book of Songs and the Book of History emanating from within. And Lu Qingge had long gone to stand by the mouth of the well, sticking out his head to look inside. Lu Qingge wanted to use a blitzkrieg strategy to avoid having to keep getting along with Shen Qingchu this whole trip. And Shen Qingchu wanted to let Lu Qingge do all the hard work so he could get lost a bit earlier. Neither one wanted to disgust himself by getting close to the other. Each had their own plans, and not a single person was listening to his wholehearted conscientious explanation of the mission. Lu Qingge lifted his head, saying, "Nothing there." Shang Qinghua understood. He meant, "My reflection didn't smile faintly at me and beckon." Quote, he spread his hands and said, "How about, we have Shen Shisheng come over and try." Shen Qingchu put away his book, swapping it for a folding fan. He strolled over to the side of the well. "I'll trouble you to allow me." Lu Qingge had long allowed him 10 or so steps. Shen Qingchu carelessly took a look in the well, but also seemed to get no results. Shang Qinghua flicked the scroll, pages rustling. "It's really strange," this clearly said. The sad thing was, no matter how hard he rustled the pages, he couldn't cover Shen Qingchu's malicious voice. "We have all tried. Isn't it your turn?" Sure enough, in this world, even the monsters feared the hard and bullied the soft. When the other two looked, they didn't see a damn thing, but when it was Shang Qinghua's turn, only he could see his own reflection coquettishly moving its hand. Lu Qingge didn't say a second word, slapping his sword hilt. Cheng Luan flew out of its sheath, rushing into the well water in a rainbow of power. After a moment of silence, the tranquil surface of the well began to churn and bubble. Shang Qinghua discreetly retreated a step, then another, pulling back a safe distance. He only heard a burst of ghostly wailing, then a huge wad of wispy spirits spurted out of the well, rushing into the sky. Lu Qingge smashed apart the clump of women's heads chasing and biting him. Retreat. By convention, once the fighting started, any Ending Peak disciples not in charge of replenishing supplies should scram far away and hang around anywhere cool. Unfortunately, Shang Qinghua had miscalculated and did not scram far enough away. His advance and retreat were both blocked off by the resentful spirit, which dispersed into a white haze. Now that things had gotten to this point, he could only break out his special ability. Eyes rolled back in his head, and he collapsed on the spot. Playing dead was always a time-tested trick. In the chaos of battle, Lu Qingge and Shen Qingchu accidentally pressed their backs together. The two simultaneously showed a look of revulsion. Shen Qingchu already shot back an attack, brushing by Lu Qingge's shoulder as it passed. Lu Qingge, angered, immediately also returned a blow. Everything's going great now. The whole of their combat force was completely ignoring the enemy to fight among themselves. Shen Qingchu scolded. "Are you blind? Where are you hitting?" Lu Qingge wasn't any more courteous than him. Who hit first? Who was blind first? Shang Qinghua lay on the ground, eyes still rolled back. He could see clearly just then there was a faint white strip of shadow diagonally above Lu Qingge. Shen Qingchu's attack had passed by Lu Qingge's shoulder, dispersing it. As he watched the blows the two rained down on each other grew bigger and bigger, eyes nearly red with bloodlust. He couldn't even bother to play dead anymore, sitting up and shouting weakly. "You guys, don't argue. Lu Shidi, you misunderstood." In fact, just then Shen Shisheng was. Shen Qingchu flung out his hand, and a few deep cracks were smashed into the wall by Shang Qinghua's head, ashen pebbles streaming down. Shen Qingchu said coldly, "If you're going to die, die completely. Don't get up halfway." Shang Qinghua didn't say another word, collapsing and continuing to contentedly play a corpse. They sealed the well creature and all the resentful spirits it had collected in a retrieval vessel, not missing a single one. Shang Qinghua led over the horse cart. Not sparing him a single glance, Lu Qingge took off onto a different road. Shang Qinghua said hurriedly, "Lu Shidi, where are you going?" Lu Qingge snorted, "I will not journey together with a backstabbing comrade." Shen Qingchu clapped his hands and smiled. "That's very good. I also do not want to journey together with someone with strength but no brains. Shang Shidi, let's go." He pinched Shang Qinghua's shoulder, and Shang Qinghua squeaked an agreement through teeth clenched in pain. Finally struggling free of his evil clutches, he chased up to Lu Qingge and cautioned him. "Lu Shidi, Shisheng has a word of advice to offer. Do not cultivate by yourself all the time. It is easy to have a chi deviation. Lu Qingge still hadn't responded when on the other side, Shen Qingchu used the base of his fan to knock on the beams of the cart. Shang Qinghua hurried back. The whole way, he drove the cart while watching Shen Qingchu closely. Shen Qingchu was leaning on the side of the carriage reading a book, but under his stare his expression grew darker and darker. Squinting his eyes, he said, "What are you looking at me for?" Shang Qinghua said timidly. Shen Shisheng, "In fact, I didn't want to remind you. But since you are asking me so sincerely, then You are holding your book upside down." Shen Qingchu's face reddened in a split second, and he suddenly rose and drew his sword. "No, don't do anything rash. Shen Qingchu, this guy," his face was the thinnest. "If you tore down his stage in front of his face, he would remember you for a lifetime." Shang Qinghua was regretting his greedy slip of the tongue a bit. But, for a person like Shen Qingchu who had mastered the art of pretension to the point of perfection to hold his book upside down, it looks like he really was seriously angered just then. Alright, he had gone to all the trouble to do a good thing, but the result didn't meet expectations. If it didn't meet expectations, just go out and tell Lu Qingge. I only wanted to help you out just then, but he wasn't willing to do it. If you're not willing, just let me help you explain. But he couldn't tear down his face. Maybe he was embarrassed. This person really was full of twists and turns, always tormenting himself. Shen Qingchu stared at him with a snake's gaze, and cold sweat flowed all down Shang Qinghua's back. After a while, Shen Qingchu finally sat back down, resheathing his sword. He composed himself with great effort, then said with a skin-deep smile, "Shang Qinghua, you shut up, all right?" Shang Qinghua's heart itched, difficult to endure. He raised a hand and said, "Can I say one more thing?" Shen Qingchu rubbed his temple with his right hand. He lifted his chin to indicate permission to speak. Shang Qinghua looked at him earnestly, and spoke the most meaningful and heartfelt series of words he had spoken since an electric current drew him into proud immortal demon way. If, in the future, you see someone going into chi deviation, do not panic, and do not rashly go up thinking you can save them. You must stay calm and go call for help. Do not make a move yourself. Or else, you will definitely be more of a hindrance than a help. Poke a big hole in the basket, and abandon yourself to despair from then on, unable to free yourself for the rest of your life. Not even jumping into the Yellow River could wash you clean. Shen Qingchu was mystified. If someone else is going into chi deviation, what does that have to do with me? Why would I panic? Why would I want to help? Shang Qinghua, face full of, "I knew it would be this type of response," said, "Either way, just make sure you remember." Once Shang Qinghua became the Peak Lord, he finally didn't need to be a blatantly bow and scrape and hug the ground anymore. A busy life was still a busy life, but at least he had been promoted from roughly treated servant girl to chief inner head official. It counted as rapid process on long steps. He heard that the master on Qingjing Peak he couldn't afford to offend had been ill. After he recovered, a secret meeting was held quietly on Qiongding Peak. Qiongding Peak Side Hall. Of 12 Peak Lords, 11 were present and accounted for. Yue Qingyuan said, with fixed concentration, "Do you feel that Qingchu Shidi has been very odd these past few days?" Several Peak Lords agreed, one by one. Lu Qingge said solemnly, "More than just odd." Qi Qingqi muttered, "He's practically a whole different person." Just at this time, Shang Qinghua stepped into the side hall, still dusty and windblown from travel. The past few years, Qian Cao Peak's dragonbone cantaloupe seeds had been selling quite well on the outside, and he had already spent several months rushing about on sales trips. He had been mysteriously dragged into this meeting as soon as he got back, and still did not quite understand the situation. He rubbed his hands and said, I have not seen Shen Shisheng for some days. Could everyone please elaborate how exactly he's been odd? Yue Qingyuan said, he could speak with me tranquilly and without stress for a whole shichen. Shang Qinghua said, terrified, my god. So odd. That really is very odd. Ordinarily speaking, there was an impassable knot tied between these two. Without dissolving this knot, there was absolutely no chance of harmonious relations. Before, the rule that they would absolutely part on bad terms by the fifth sentence was the normal state of things. A whole shichen's worth of tranquil and stress-free exchange. This was more than a fantastic level of progress. Lu Qingge said, in the Lingxi caves, he helped me. Shang Qinghua finally remembered, right, at this time, Lu Qingge should already have been helped to death by Shen Qingchu. How could he still leap and frisk about, sitting here to attend the meeting? Could it have been that after defeating the well creature, the reminder he had given Shen Qingchu had taken effect? The others continued to summarize Shen Qingchu's every kind of oddity in the last few days. Why would he himself sustain injury beating back an ungrateful devil woman from the demon race? Why would he stand up and protect his disciples to show concern and care? Hearing this, Shang Qinghua's face began to twitch. He thought it over front and back. This type of altruistic self-sacrificing character design, no matter how you looked at it, it was seriously OOC. He couldn't resist saying, stop. His body couldn't have been seized, right? Wei Shisheng, how is your sword testing station? Did he visit? At Wei Qingwai's Wanjian Peak sword testing station, there was a mystical sword, Hongjing, which no person had ever been able to draw. As long as something like a resentful soul or evil spirit approached, the sword would unsheath by itself. If Shen Qingchu really had been possessed by some unclean creature, as long as he approached the sword testing station, Hongjing would definitely sound a major alarm. But, Wei Qingwei said, he went 3 times, and tried to draw it 3 times, absolutely no sign of movement. There is no demonic energy on his body. Yue Qingyuan said slowly, I could not detect any signs of his body having been seized. Qi Qingchu spread her hands and said, if his body had been seized, that wouldn't make any sense at all. There is always some sort of conspiracy behind body seizure. These days, he has not been doing anything, even more idle than before. After a session of discussion, they were still unable to reach a decision. In the end, Mu Qingfang said, and it is not necessarily a case of body seizure. In my opinion, maybe Shen Shisheng's old problem has reappeared. All the peak lords looked at each other in dismay. What this old problem was, it did not need to be said. Everyone understood. Shen Qingchu, as a person, was ambitious and aggressive, proud and arrogant. This would not be the first time he tried to demand instant success. Maybe he went to cultivate in secret again, and ended up suffering a qi deviation. Mu Qingfang continued to analyze. I have heard of quite a few cases that when a person is hit on the head with a large rock, or perhaps suffers a violent irritant, sometimes they will lose a few of their past memories. So, to suffer a qi deviation and forget the past, making one's temperament undergo major changes, is not necessarily an impossibility. Yue Qingyuan said. Then, is it possible to recover? Qi Qingqi wrinkled her nose. Zhangmen's Shisheng, could it be that you still wish he would recover his previous character and conduct? Yue Qingyuan started. Me? I also do not know, he said earnestly, even though how he is now is also very good. But, if he can remember, it is better if he does. Some of the other peak lords did not understand. Before, he would never give a proper greeting when he met Zhang Man, Shisheng and our other comrades. He would not pay visits at our homes. When he spoke, it was always a needle concealed in silk floss. A weird temperament, hot and cold. What was good about it? How he is now is quite a bit better. Yue Qingyuan smiled faintly but did not speak. Mu Qingfang said awkwardly, "The last time I went to write his prescription for without a cure, I helped him take a look while I was there. There were not any major signs, and it would be difficult to begin. I am afraid we can only let nature take its course." After achieving the verdict of, "The Qingjing Peak Lord has lost his memory," celebrate and spread the joyful news, the meeting dispersed. After this meeting had concluded, Shang Qinghua felt, in response to these strange happenings, he was very much obligated to, in passing while delivering Qingjing Peak's funds, investigate a bit. Before his investigation, the first place Shang Qinghua went was Baizan Peak. Normally speaking, each peak of Kangqiong Mountain was ranked by seniority. Qingjing Peak was number 2, and Baizan Peak was number 7. After he made his deliveries to the first-ranked Qiongding Peak, the next should be Qingjing Peak according to the order. But on one hand, Shen Qingchu was too hard to please, and every time Shang Qinghua had to rack his brains to figure out how to speak so as not to offend him. And on the other, Baizan Peak was good at fighting, and Shang Qinghua felt rather secure giving them their funds first. What type of security? Precisely the security of a self-employed small shop owner handing over his protection fee to the local tyrant lord. The one who met him was Lu Qingji's Shidi, Jiju, who was as enthusiastic as always. The two exchanged a few greetings, and after the handover was complete, Jiju said, "Shang Shisheng, take care, I'm returning to the practice grounds." Watching his expression, Shang Qinghua seemed like he didn't want to walk very fast through himself. He asked, "Recently, Lu Shidi has often been staying on Baizan Peak. Has Shidi had a sudden increase in cultivation?" Lu Qingge was outside looking for people to fight all year round. No one on Baizan Peak was a match for him. At most, he would come back once a month. And when Baizan Peak flocked over to Qiankao Peak to seek treatment, that would be just after he returned. But, recently, Qiankao Peak's thresholds were almost trampled by those uncles from Baizan Peak, and their funds were hard-pressed. Mu Qingfang came to look for Shang Qinghua every few days to ask for loans. He felt it was very strange. He wondered if some new extraordinary genius appeared on Baizan Peak who could stand up to Lu Qingge, so he asked this question. Ji Yue said gloomily, "It's not our peak, it's Shen Qingchu." Shang Qinghua was entirely not counting on hearing some earth-shattering response, so he smiled and nodded. "Oh, Shen Qingchu. Shen Qingchu." Digesting the enormous amount of information contained in those 3 characters, Shang Qinghua was almost startled into ascending on the spot. Shen Qingchu. At Baizan Peak. And at the Baizan practice grounds. Doing what? Getting one-sidedly beaten up by Lu Qingge. No, according to his skill in drawing hatred, it should be a group beating. What if it was fatal? He's an important scum villain. If he was beaten to death, to whom would Bing Ge be sent to be oppressed? Jiju. Shang Shisheng, what's that look in your eye? Don't look at me like that. We didn't kill anyone. Shen Qingchu is still alive, no one did anything to him. You should be asking what he did to us. So, Shang Qinghua jogged with him all the way to the practice grounds. On the high basalt platform, Lu Qingge and Shen Qingchu were actually really just peacefully crossing swords. Lu Qingge's movements were much slower than usual. Rather than calling it crossing swords, might as well call it feeding strikes for The space between his brows was still rather smooth and calm, with none of his former murderous spirit. Just then, Shen Qingchu's sword struck air and he knit his brow, his left hand slightly moving. Shang Qinghua's heart suddenly stretched taut, glancing at Jiju out of the corner of his eye to see his expression also flash cold, like he had an urge to shout out loud. The two glanced at each other, a flash of wordless understanding. 5. Jiju, his heart still holding lingering palpitations, spoke in a low voice. I always feel like Shen Qingchu is about to deploy a concealed weapon dipped in poison or something. Shang Qinghua expressed his deep concurrence. Heroes think alike. Quote, it looks like Ji Shidi understood this character very thoroughly. None other than the one who once got into a fight with Shen Qingchu at a brothel, old enemies who completely lost Two Peaks' faces. Shen Qingchu drew back Xu Ya, stopping to think. He, 1, didn't let out a rustling sneer. 2, didn't look askance at anyone. Looking at him this way, he had a mild brow and peaceful gaze, but still carried a modest air of elegant nobility. Soon after, Shen Qingchu said, I don't understand. Lu Qingge flicked a swift and fierce flourish with his sword. Don't understand what? A disciple by Jiju's side suddenly muttered. Heavens, he doesn't understand again. Another disciple said in a low voice. I can't anymore. My stomach feels unwell. I'm going back. Jiju said hurriedly. Shidi, wait for me. Me too. His Shidi pushed him back. Stay. Didn't you just return? On the platform, Shen Qingchu said. Just then. With those few moves. If I blocked your sword with my right hand and struck a sudden attack with spiritual energy in my left hand, taking the opportunity to strike your stomach, that would have been an opportunity to win. Lu Qingge scoffed. Not possible. Shen Qingchu persisted. It's possible. Lu Qingge. If you could win, why didn't you try it? Shen Qingchu said, aloof. Wuxia Aren't we just comparing notes? Attacking for real would be out of line. Lu Qingge didn't bother to reply, yelling at the crowd below the platform. Someone come up. The person he selected was like the hero Yi Shui 6, face like they viewed death as a return home as they ascended the platform. They traded a few blows with Lu Qingge with the method Shen Qingchu had selected, and was blown straight off the platform by Cheng Luin. Lu Qingge finally resheathed his sword, saying to Shen Qingchu, you see, it won't work. Shen Qingchu spread his fan, waving it in front of his chest. He said, smiling, I see. Lu Shidi's reflexes are too fast. It wouldn't work after all. Jiju quietly complained to Shang Qinghua. Every time he says, I don't understand, Lu Shisheng grabs someone to demonstrate, until he understands. No wonder the injuries at Baizan Peak only increased these past few days, and Qiankao Peak's front courtyard was as busy as a marketplace. Shang Qinghua only had one thought to this. Shen Qingchu, this guy, he has to be doing it on purpose. After he descended the platform, Lu Qingge continued to train, beat up, the Baizan Peak disciples. Shen Qingchu and Shang Qinghua exchanged greetings, walking down the mountain together. Just as they were about to exit the gate, Jiju came, carrying 2 sacks to give to Shen Qingchu and Shang Qinghua. Shang Qinghua didn't understand, so he undid the tie to take a look. He saw 2 balls of bloody, hairy things nestled inside. This is, Jiju said, his expression stiff. Lu Shisheng caught these short-haired monsters. Apparently their flavor is very good. My 2 Shisheng can take them back to your own peaks to exercise your own cooking method. Short-haired monster? Short-haired monster? He never created this sort of creature. It's edible. Are you sure? Looks like Shen Qingchu was also very suspicious of the edibility of this thing. Thanks for your trouble. Jiju recited woodenly. 7. Shisheng said, this is a return gift for the tea leaves King Jingpeak sent last time. Tea leaves. He was sending tea leaves. What is this? Trading presents back and forth? Shang Qinghua yelled crap internally, a smile on his face. That's to say, I caught a bit of Shen Shisheng's light. I don't know what type of high-quality tea leaves these were. Shen Qingchu said affably. They were harvested from my head disciple Ming Fan's family's tea fields. As for whether they're high quality or not, won't Shang Shidi know if he comes to take a meal at King Jingpeak? Shang Qinghua thickened his face and said, then I'll also catch a bit of Lu Shisheng's light as well. So, each carrying a sack, talking about this and that, they walked towards King Jingpeak. As soon as they entered the gate, serene wind brushed their faces, thin bird song chittering away, entirely distinct from the outer world. The two walked over soft green fallen bamboo covering the ground, the atmosphere several times more refreshing. For some reason, Shen Qingchu's mood was quite good. Looking at him, he didn't look the least bit like he just lost to Lu Qingge, but instead lazily praised. Lu Shiji's swordcraft really is not bad. Shang Qinghua couldn't resist reminding him. Shen Shisheng, you lost a few times. Shen Qingchu thought it over. You're asking about this morning? It was only 7 or 8 times. Then how can you be this calm? Shouldn't you be gnashing your teeth in fury, raindrops on a pear blossom? 8 cuckoo crying blood, swinging your hands to go back into seclusion for 3 months, swearing to duel again? Don't you know you're being OOC? Can't you respect your work a bit more? Shen Qingchu used the handle of his fan to tap his nape. Losing to the Baizan Peak Lord, there's nothing you can do. You might as well say winning would be the unusual occurrence. Shang Qinghua felt there was no way to keep conversing with him. He's lost his memory. He definitely cultivated into qi deviation and lost his memory. For this scene of friendly elder and respectful younger, harmonious fraternal love between comrades to appear between Shen Qingchu and Lu Qingji, oh heavens! Maybe in a few days, Shen Qingchu and Luo Bing'e would be able to strike up some flirtatious banter. Just after this frightful scene flashed through his mind, a white shadow darted over. Something sticky suddenly threw itself into Shen Qingchu's arms. That softened lump called Shizun. Shen Qingchu was nearly knocked over face up. Tilting and grabbing onto a thick bamboo stalk, he finally steadied his footing, seeing Shang Qinghua detachedly observing the scene, expressionless. You can't fault Shang Qinghua for his expression freezing up. Seeing that little lady killer embryo, his pair of arms encircling Shen Qingchu's waist like steel hoops, a call of Bing Ji nearly escaped Shang Qinghua's mouth. Shen Qingchu stiffly waved his fan with one hand, completely unembarrassed. If you're going to call, then call. Don't drag out your voice and call. Throwing yourself at people all day, your Shishu is still here. What decorum is this? Luo Bing'e slowly pulled back his hands, standing up straight. He obediently first called Shang Shishu, then said, after this disciple finished morning lessons, I have been waiting here for Shizun to return. I forgot myself in a moment of excitement. Airplane shooting towards the sky. Ju's heart nearly crumbled. Luo Bing'e switched to cradling Shen Qingchu's arm. Shizun, why were you out for so long today? There were a lot of people today. Looking at Shen Qingchu's leisurely and contented smile, Shang Qinghua couldn't resist guessing how many times he didn't understand today, and how many times he had Lu Qingge demonstrate for him. Luo Bing'e automatically took the sack out of Shen Qingchu's hands. Next time, can I go too? That depends on your progress in your sword skills. Shen Qingchu said casually. There is some sort of monster in the sack. Your Lu Shishu said it's edible. See if you can clean off the hair and figure out how to eat it. You're making Bing Ji into a kitchen girl. Only the female protagonists are allowed to eat the male protagonist's cooking. Can't you keep to your place? Forget about it. Shang Qinghua didn't have the energy. Oh. Luo Bing'er happily agreed. Shaking the sack, the thing inside suddenly began to struggle. Shizun, it's still alive. When they arrived at the drawing room of the bamboo house, Shen Qingchu's flock of disciples were still surrounding that mysterious creature, taking turns to poke the sack. With each poke, that short-haired monster let out a plaintive cry, and they were still delighted each time, clicking their tongues in wonder. Shizun, it really is still alive. What do we do if it's still alive? Still kill and eat it? Let's not, it's so pitiful. Shang Qinghua forcibly ignored this flock of young disciples sitting all over the ground, lowering his head to drink his tea, his heart twitching. He remembered the last time he came. Every disciple had a face full of great bitterness and deep hatred. Standing like pines or sitting like clocks. Ancient texts in hand, reciting wherever they went like they were chanting curses, quoting chapter and verse when they spoke, a musical cadence in their voices. Seeing them today, was this still that renowned King Jing Peak which produced countless youths full of pretentious literary airs? This whole place was a trusteeship for ADHD children. Shen Qingchu said, if it's still alive, then keep it as a pet. Ming Fan hurriedly retorted, let's eat it, let's just eat it. We've never kept one before, we don't know how much it needs to eat, and changing its water and taking it out for walks and whatnot is very troublesome. Ning Yingying pouted, that's enough. If we keep it, it definitely won't be you taking care of it. Shizun would obviously give it to a Luo to keep. Quote, she lifted her head and asked, Shizun, where did you get this strange thing? The Baizan Peak Lord gave it to me. A return gift for the tea. Hearing this, Ning Yingying whined. Shizun, I don't like Baizan Peak. They're so annoying. Last time they came wielding swords to bully a Luo, they were chasing and beating him. Shang Qinghua thought, this is quite normal. Baizan Peak's ubiquitous malice towards Luo Bing'er was entirely natural. This was a type of intuitive reaction of single-celled organisms towards those with an element of hidden wicked potential. This really wasn't hating on Baizan Peak. Shang Qinghua was a fan himself. After enumerating their shortcomings, Ning Yingying requested, Shizun, you have to help us teach him a good lesson. Pooh. Shen Qingchu choked once, turned towards Shang Qinghua, then smiled politely. Hi. These kids, what are they going on about? There ought to be harmony and familial affection between comrades. How could I teach him a good lesson at will? Shang Qinghua repeatedly stated his agreement, returning the same type of forced smile, drinking tea like his life depended on it. Sister Yingying, your Shizun doesn't need to make a move. Lu Qing'er has already taught them quite a cruel lesson. In fact, Shen Qingchu is in charge of the harmony and familial affection. Lu Qing'er is in charge of the teaching him a good lesson. Precisely the true nature of a hypocrite. Shang Qinghua felt deeply gratified. Shen Qingchu, even after going through a qi deviation and losing his memory, was sure enough still that treacherous Shen Qingchu. Right at this time, Luo Bing'er had fetched the tea leaves, entering the living room to present him to Shang Qinghua. Shen Qingchu said, come, Shidi, we have been indebted to Unding Peak's care for a long time now. The one on the floor was still unwilling to overlook or spare. Ning Yingying said, impassionate. Shizun, you have to avenge a Luo this time. Shen Qingchu was at the end of his patience. Yingying, go play outside. Luo Bing'e hurriedly retorted. You must not avenge me or whatever. It's just this disciple's skill is inferior to theirs, and I lost face for Shizun and King Jingpeak. Shen Qingchu comforted. It's just that your foundation isn't very good and you are lacking for the time being. As long as you are diligent, given some time, you can definitely surpass them. Ming Fan scoffed. To surpass Baizan Peak, for him, it would take 100 years. Ning Yingying flew into a temper. You look down on us King Jingpeak and look down on a Luo so much. Why don't you just go to Baizan Peak and see if they'll take you? Shen Qingchu put his head in his hands. Didn't I tell you to go outside and play? Why are you still here? Bing'e, get them outside quick. Don't make an exhibition of yourselves here. Okay, Shizun. But, as for this thing, are we eating it or keeping it? Shang Qinghua felt like he was going to have a heart attack. This Shen Qingchu as Red Candle and Gardener, Luo Bing'e as Close Little Jacket, 9 what the hell is this? Don't fucking tell me Shen Qingchu really did go to Baizan Peak and mess with people just to avenge Luo Bing'e. This benevolent father, filial son. Pei lifting the tray to eyebrow level. Pei treating the other as an honored guest. 10 This was even more fantastical than Shen Qingchu and Lu Qingge harmoniously comparing notes. If it kept going on like this, maybe there really will be a day when they're exchanging flirtatious banter. After Airplane Ju finished swearing, he had a rare moment of careful thought. He had never used Chengyu 11 quite properly, and he brought out the limited supply he knew to describe Lu Minyan's good looks. The ones he used with the highest frequency were soft bosoms trembling, and could be knocked over with a breath. 12 to use. Treating the other as an honored guest should be correct here, right? And, looking at the literal meaning, it should be correct. At that time, the airplane shooting towards the sky, Ju assiduously struggling for his existence, still did not know that the Scame villain Shen Qingchu had already replaced by the unmatched hater Peerless Cumber. To think that in those days, now and again when this lord's hate was excessively ferocious, he would casually curse him, maliciously praying that no matter how peerless his Cumber, may he never get a chance to use it all his life. Who could have expected that in some sort of way, this curse had been fulfilled? These days Bing Ji's mood was especially bad. Shang Qinghua could understand. As the stallion protagonist who could turn the sky by himself in the original work, now he had got in Shen Qingchu and imprisoned him really, just imprisoned him. What he did was imprison him, not do anything else. Can you believe it? As the original author, even he didn't dare to believe if the current Bing Ji could still be controlled by his pen. Based on the principle of satisfying the protagonist is satisfying the readers, he would definitely have Luo Bing'e defile Shen Qingchu hundreds of times, hundreds of times, over and over like frying flatbread. There are definitely none of his personal grievances with Peerless Cumber here. Definitely not. The props, position, and location need not be the same. It'll be easier to say once it's fried through. Of course feelings will arise as you're frying. 13. End chapter.